It's 1:30 p.m. in Lagos, 12:30 p.m. in London, and we're bringing you markets, analysis, and insights on Business Incorporated live from Channels TV. And here's what's coming up on the program. Mali signs deal to build gold refinery with Russia. South Africa fuel price hikes almost doubled in October. Nigeria's GDP grows by 2.51% in the second quarter of this year. Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Will Ibong. Let's kick off with the markets. First up, major equities on the African continent at intraday. Major equities were trading in positive territory. We see Nigeria slightly in marginal territory, 0.01% up. We see South Africa over 1% up at intraday. Now let's check out Egypt, how EGX traded at intraday. It was over 1%, nearly 2% up at intraday, and Nairobi Securities Exchange closed Monday's session. Wednesday's session in the green. Is still, on that winning streak. Now let's see how Middle East performed. It was mostly in the red for a Middle East this afternoon. We see 0.01% up for Abu Dhabi. That's the sole gainer for that region. Dubai down, however, 0.3%. Now elsewhere, we see Saudi and Qatar also in the red at intraday. Now, it's trouble in Cryptoland. The world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, has seen almost $1 billion in outflows over the past 24 hours. And that's after the company's CEO had to step down over accusations of Binance dealing in illegal businesses. Lars Alter is with Deutsche Welle, and he joins me from Berlin. Lars, what can you tell us about Binance and its current problems?
So having me, Will. Now, a short answer, Binance is said to have broken U.S. anti-money laundering laws, and for that it will have to pay a $4.3 billion settlement. But money laundering, of course, is a technical term, and the real shocker is in the details. Binance apparently booked, but did obviously not disclose, 100,000 suspicious transactions with organizations commonly seen as terrorist groups, including Hamas, Al-Qaeda, and the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. And if that's not terrible enough for you, they also booked and never reported transactions with websites devoted to selling child sexual abuse materials. And they did business with firms that specialize in ransomware. So it seems hard to come up with a crime that Binance, as the world's largest crypto exchange, has not helped finance. The company pretty much provided the infrastructure for many of these crimes to even pay off. Let me quote the U.S. Attorney General here. He says Binance made it easy for criminals to move their stolen funds and illicit proceeds on its exchanges.
Lars, what does this mean for the future of the exchange? Does Binance?
Well, first and foremost, Binance will have to pay those $4.3 billion, as I mentioned, but that's, of course, got to hurt, but the company says that it can take that blow. The new CEO, Richard Teng, who has been with Binance for years as well, he says that the company's focus would now be on, quote, reassuring users that they can remain confident in the financial strength, security, and safety of the company. Well, just hours after he said that, though, we've seen outflows now of over $950 million. Yes, that is almost $1 billion. So apparently there is a lot of doubt and insecurity amongst investors here, likely because it seems clear that the company will have a hard time cleaning up their act. There will have to be stricter controls on all transactions, and those won't be easy to do because, and that's also an insight we gained from the Binance investigation, it seems that terrorist groups, for example, usually send small sums as those transactions are better to hide, whereas large sum transactions are obviously easier to spot. So the task ahead is definitely a difficult one for Binance.
Definitely a difficult one, but what are investors looking at if we turn to the markets today?
Yeah, we're looking at oil markets. For example, today oil prices are down a bit on Thursday because it looks like output cuts by OPEC Plus will be a little less than expected. Other than that, with Asian markets up, not too much will happen on Thursday, and that's because it's Thanksgiving in the US and markets there will be closed. They open again tomorrow, but only for half a day, and most people tomorrow will not waste too much time thinking about the markets, but heading to the market or the mall because it's Black Friday tomorrow, and while the celebration of the biggest shopping day of the year used to be a purely American tradition, it is obviously a worldwide trend these days. But it will be important for markets next week, I guess, because Black Friday, of course, offers a glimpse on the holiday retail season and, of course, also the current strength of the consumer.
Laz, I'm just looking forward to Christmas now. Thank you so much, Laz, for that update. Now, in the U.S., we see stock futures trading slightly up, with Dow Jones Industrial Average up 0.02%, S&P 500 futures 0.05% up, and NASDAQ 100 futures 0.14% up. Meanwhile, stocks rose Wednesday after yields briefly fell to their lowest level in 2 months. And the November market rally broadened into the Thanksgiving holiday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average gained 0.53% to 35,000 points. The S&P 500 climbed 0.41%. The NASDAQ Composite advanced 0.46% to 14,000 points. Now, after several days of crisis, Sam Altman has returned as the CEO of OpenAI. 3 new board members have replaced the previous leadership that ousted Altman. However, OpenAI's new board doesn't appear to be fully built. What does this mean for the future of the company? Lee Malone, AI expert and Chief Technology Officer at Humanity, joins me. Lee, it's good to have you on the program. Just break it down for us now. Was there a reason for Altman to have been fired in the first place? Lee, could you unmute your mic? Okay, great.
We don't really know the reason. It's still speculation, but personal opinion and from what we're kind of seeing on across the board is that there was a conflict internally around the push towards commercialization and the speed of which they were trying to grow into the developer ecosystem. And I think this is just a sign that maybe we are getting more and more closer to this promise of AGI, and everyone wanted a conflicting view of, do we need to slow down now and reprioritize?
Okay, so it looks like the employees at OpenAI wield a lot of power here, but what do you see going forward for the company?
Well, I spoke to Sam when he was here in Abu Dhabi last month, and personally, I feel like he's the guy you want steering this ship, especially for something so revolutionary that is artificial intelligence. Sam and Greg aren't going to have board seats on the new kind of arrangement, which is going to put a lot of governance in place for going forward. But that being said, 500 people signed this letter. AI talent is in high demand, and Microsoft themselves offered matching pay packets for these people. So I think it's going to be a bit of a eggshell kind of moment over the next few months, whilst they kind of grow reassurance within the audience, and also this might be the window where a lot of OpenAI staff start to go out on their own and start up their own ventures.
So can you just you mentioned Microsoft there. We didn't know that Microsoft reached out to Sam Altman. They wanted Sam Altman on their board, in the company. So could you just share with us some of the reasons why Microsoft wanted them there and why you think Sam Altman didn't go to Microsoft?
Well, Sam is, a unique talent in himself. Microsoft has already invested over $10 billion into OpenAI. They own 49%. So you could argue that OpenAI, to a large extent, is a subsidiary of Microsoft. But I think also they didn't want to really lose what they kind of built. OpenAI was valued at secondary market around $90 billion at the moment. Microsoft lost about $45 billion on the news that Sam was fired. So this could be as simple as just, good kind of good business. But it could also be the fact that Sam, again, from my own experience, seems to be the person you want leading your advanced AI initiative, either in OpenAI or within Microsoft.
Lee, there's a lot going on in the tech space, especially in the AI, in crypto's world. We've seen we're seeing the Binance CEO stepping down. What's going on? What future do you think is there for the crypto investors, for the crypto space? Could you just share an outlook for the rest of the year?
Yeah, well, the UAE in particular has been very central to the crypto regulation and crypto kind of growth in the region. I think now we're starting to see more institutions come in and also show that this is becoming more of a financial mechanic and, really maturing in the market. So I think we're going to see some quite interesting things now that we've kind of got past all the hype and it's now kind of down to business.
Thank you so much, Lee Malone, CTO, that's the Chief Technology Officer of Humanity, for joining us in Business Incorporated and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Now, this week, Zambia's dollar debt plunged after official creditors, co-led by China and France, rejected a revised bondholder restructuring proposal, stalling the revamp of $3 billion of outstanding notes. Zambia's central bank, this week as well, that was yesterday, raised its benchmark interest rate by the most in 4 years to tame stubborn inflation and support the currency. The Monetary Policy Committee lifted the rate to 11% from 10%. And that's the biggest increase since November 2019. We have Austin Gard, is the Sub-Saharan Africa analyst at BMI, a Fitch Solutions company. He joins us from the UK to share his insights. Good afternoon, Austin. It's good to have you on the program. But what does this mean? What does this mean? Everything's happening in Zambia right now. What does this mean for the broader debt restructuring program?
Thank you very much for having me. Well, like you've mentioned, this is certainly a setback, and markets have reacted as such, with yields on Zambia's 2027 Eurobond spiking in response to the statement released by the official creditor committee on Monday. And the Zambian kwacha, its currency, has also continued its streak of losses. Despite this initial reaction, though, at BMI, we do hold the view that this setback will have a limited material impact on Zambia's debt restructuring program, as well as the economy more broadly. So it's critical to remember that the deal reached in June with official creditors to restructure $6.3 billion of Zambia's external debt was solidified with a memorandum of understanding at the IMF's annual meetings in October. So this portion of the program has almost certainly been settled at this point. I think it's also important to consider why official creditors rejected the debt treatment proposed by commercial bondholders. They rejected the deal based on this notion of comparability of treatment, or in other words, the idea that different creditor groups should offer similar terms. So according to the official creditor committee, government creditors are providing a much more favourable repayment schedule and are therefore assuming a lot more risk.
Does this setback call into question the efficacy of the G20 common framework, Austin?
In short, yes, it does. Although if we look at what the G20 common framework was designed to do and what it's actually achieved to date, it's quite clear that the efficacy, as you put it, of the framework could have been questioned long before this most recent setback. So the G20 Common Framework was set up in 2020, and it was set up to coordinate debt restructuring between official and private creditors. And this was supposed to facilitate timely and orderly debt treatment for countries that had previously been eligible for relief under the Debt Service Suspension Initiative. And thus far, only 3 countries, so that's Zambia, Ghana, and Chad, have sought support from the framework, and none of these have yet finalised a debt restructuring programme. And with regards to Zambia, it's important to note that a major obstacle has been the larger role that mainland China has played in the negotiations, with China approaching the talks in a very different way to the traditional Paris Club group of lenders. And while this dynamic isn't unique to Zambia, it's worth noting that, unlike in Ghana, for example, the majority of the country's bilateral debt is held by mainland China. And we think that this has very much contributed to the protracted nature of Zambia's restructuring programme. And in this case, it does suggest then that the G20 Common Framework really is struggling to reconcile the competing interests of different creditors, especially considering the emphasis they place on comparability of treatment.
Very interesting thing you pointed out there. But what strategies or alternatives might Zambia consider in addressing its economic challenges? Because it has to find a way to, work around this problem following this setback.
So yeah, as I mentioned, we don't actually expect this setback to have a major impact on Zambia's economy per se, but you are right in saying that the country is facing a number of economic challenges. So inflation is on the rise again, as you mentioned, and this is being driven by the continued weakening of the country's currency, the kwacha, which so far this year has actually been one of the world's worst performing currencies. And as you mentioned, we saw yesterday the Bank of Zambia hiking its policy rate by 100 basis points to 11%, which suggests that higher inflation is forcing policymakers to tighten policy at a faster pace, and that's a move that we think will cap credit demand over the coming quarters. And also, as I recently highlighted in a webinar on emerging fiscal risks across sub-Saharan Africa as a whole, it is likely that governments across the region will be forced to lean more heavily on domestic sources of credit as they remain locked out of international credit markets. So as Zambia and other African governments continue to run budget deficits in the medium term, this scenario is very likely to play out as the Zambian government seeks to plug the gap in its budget.
Thank you so much, Osengard, analyst Sub-Saharan Africa with BMI. Thank you for sharing your insights on Business Incorporated.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Next, more stories from the African continent. Stay with us. This is Business Incorporated. Thanks for staying with us. Now we're going to be talking about pineapples, a very common commodity in West Africa and even known globally. Pineapples are rich in vitamin C and used in fruits, salad, juices, and pastries in Nigeria. But there's been a rise in the price of pineapples over the year by over 17% to 800 naira per unit for the small size, in tandem with increases in food inflation in the country. Are there specific reasons for such? We're going to be talking to Tomiwa Ajewole, analyst with financial derivatives company, is going to be sharing his insights. Tomiwa, tell us if the spike is as a result of the season that we're approaching. Is it seasonal, or what has led to the increase in prices?
Yeah, so pineapples are typically always available throughout the year and do not have strict seasonal cycles like other fruits. But however, pineapple has a peak season, which usually starts in March and extends into summer months like July. And that could be one of the reasons why we have seen an increase in the price, because we are past its peak season. Also, logistics costs in Nigeria has generally been on the rise since the removal of fuel subsidy in June. And transportation costs have increased from farm produce, from when farm produce leaves the farmer's place to final consumers. So these are one of the reasons why prices are increasing. However, it's important to note that the price increase in pineapple is lower compared to Nigeria's food inflation, which was 31.52% as of October 2023. And one of the reasons is because there's a low adoption of fruits into daily meal intake by Nigerians. A lot of Nigerians see fruits as luxury or just occasional indulgence, despite the many healthy benefits that fruits have to offer. So yeah, those are some of the reasons why our prices are increasing.
As much as we enjoy eating pineapples, there's some health concerns here, especially with diabetic patients. We're looking at people living with diabetes and children. At least 11.2 million persons are living with diabetes in Nigeria. Could these health concerns be responsible for the fall in demand for pineapples in Nigeria?
Yeah, well, there's the myth that our diabetic patients should not eat fruits. And when you take this with the fact that, as I previously mentioned, there's a low adoption of fruits in Nigeria's daily meal intake, you can see how there'll be a subdued demand for fruits such as pineapple. However, fruits, especially pineapple, are a major food source of vitamins and minerals. And avoiding fruit is depriving the body of major antioxidants. Pineapples in particular are rich in fiber, and fibers are important for diabetic patients because it helps to reduce cholesterol and lower sugar levels. So what diabetic patients can do is that they can watch the moderation of fruit intake they do, and just generally keep a balanced diet. Having a slice of pineapple with protein such as chicken or Greek yogurt is good, especially with the moderation. However, it's important to avoid fruit juices or syrups because those have higher sugar levels, and those are major concerns.
Tomiwa, we're looking at the production and value enhancement here. We're seeing that almost half of pineapples end up as waste due to their unsuitability for consumption. Are there processes that the country can adopt so that we can, enhance the value from these unconsumable parts of the pineapple to enhance value, to give more, especially enhance the value chain of the pineapple production in Nigeria? Nigeria is the leading pineapple producer in West Africa. How can we leverage on these processes, that can enhance pineapple value chain in the country?
Yeah, so during the processing of pineapple, a lot of biodegradable waste is generated. When you look at the crown, the peel, the core, the base, and this waste, when they go through decomposition, they release methane into the environment. Methane is a toxic gas and also contributes to global warming. But on the other hand, this waste also have properties that are very useful in the textile industry and also can be used for in soap making. So these are areas which Nigeria, of course, is one of the top producers of pineapple in Africa, and even around 7 to 8 globally. These are areas that we can use to improve our value chain in terms of pineapple production. And it's important that our post-harvest infrastructure is improved because in Nigeria there's a lot of post-harvest losses due to inadequate infrastructure such as storage facilities. So there has to be substantial investment in our post-harvest infrastructure if we are going to be able to leverage the several areas by which pineapple can contribute and improve its value chain.
Tomiwa Jawale, analyst, financial derivatives company. Many thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Now moving on to other stories, we see Malian authorities have announced the signing of an agreement with Russia to build a gold refinery in the national capital, Bamako. Relations between Mali and Russia have strengthened in recent years, notably following the coup on May the 24th, 2021. And the two countries have signed several agreements and continue bilateral relations, including the construction of a 200-ton annual gold refinery, the largest in West Africa. The memorandum is valid for unspecified 4 years, according to the information by the Minister of Economy and Finance. Mali, one of Africa's largest gold producers, gold accounts for around 1/4 of Mali's fiscal resources, making it one of the leading gold-producing countries on the continent. Now, Statistics South Africa says transport inflation almost doubled in October, driven up by increases in fuel prices. The price of 95-octane petrol rose to 25 rands and 68 cents a litre, the second highest price for petrol ever. Higher food prices were another big contributor to the jump in consumer price inflation in October. CPI, which measures the monthly changes in prices for a range of consumer products, increased for a third consecutive month. It now sits at 5.9%, up from 5.4% in September. Now we're going to be speaking to Patrick Kelly, is one of the persons who Channel TV interviewed. Let's take a listen to that.
Transport inflation quickened to 7.4% from 4.2% in September. The rise was mainly due to a 6.5% monthly increase in the fuel price, taking the annual rate to 11.2% from 1.5% in September. The price of inland 95-octane petrol rose to its second highest level ever, 25 Rand 68 cents per litre, from 24 Rand and 54 cents a litre in September. Vehicle inflation eased to 7.8% from 8.4% in September. Restaurants and hotels registered an annual price rise of 6.3%. Menu prices are 6.4% higher than this time last year, and hotel rates increased by 9.7% between September and October, taking the annual rate to 6.1%.
Now, still on growth, we move to Nigeria, where data from National Bureau of Statistics shows that Nigeria's GDP growth rate stood at 2.51% in the second quarter of 2023, which represents a decline from the second quarter 2022 figure of 3.54%. Now, when compared to the first and second quarters of 2022, the growth rates for the first quarter and the second quarter of 2023 experienced a reduction of 0.8% and 1.03% respectively. Now, on the positive side, the GDP growth rate for the second quarter increased by 0.2% when compared to the 2.31% recorded in the first quarter of 2023. Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, says that for the first time in the history of Nigeria, young Nigerian tech talents are now exposed to the practical demonstration of artificial intelligence. The minister, who was speaking after a tour of SAIL Innovation Lab in Ikorodu area of Lagos State, also said that through the initiative and in partnership with Awari AI Nigeria, now has a workforce building AI solutions for our own realities. Let's take a listen.
Steering the artificial intelligence revolution to achieve national goals has been a key part of the digital transformation plan of the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy. And so to bring this plan to fruition, the ministry is working with SAIL Innovation Lab in Ikorodu area of Lagos State to train young tech talents in the field. They partner with Awari AI for continuous talent sourcing for the emerging AI industry in Nigeria.
In line with the Honorable Minister's strategy to create jobs, to have economic empowerment in Nigeria. So these people have gone through this training program and now they're fully employed, developing technology that is world class. And so why are we doing this? A lot of people might have heard about artificial intelligence. It is the most potent, most powerful technology in the world right now. And it's the next step in the human story.
The co-founder of the lab and the senator representing Lagos East says the partnership with Awari AI signals the beginning of a transformative journey in Ikorodu.
Those who know, we didn't start from here. We started from 68 Thos Benson Road. That was how we started, and that used to be my constituency office. We used it for the campaign. One campaign was over. I said, my people, see, let's move aside and reconfigure. And we reconfigured and started. So we started from there, and I'm happy. We have seen some of the first cohort, the first set of people, they have joined us here.
For the Minister of Communications, Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosun Tijani, this is the first time in the history of Nigeria that we're able to fully harness the benefits of AI.
For the first time in Nigeria, hundreds of those people are being hired, and it is here in Ikorodu, but nowhere else. This is not a political rally. We may not understand the meaning of this, but it is extremely significant because the future that we all want to protect, the future that we want for our kids, we can only get it when we participate in the development of that future. Today, we have decided to start on that journey. They've decided to create a new company with the opportunity. The senator has decided to team up with them to create something special, and we've decided it is going to start in Ikorodu. Ikorodu's name will forever be on the artificial intelligence map, moving forward from here.
As this partnership harmonizes seamlessly, it not only signifies a transformative journey unfolding, but marks an unprecedented chapter where the full benefits of AI are harnessed, propelling the nation into a new era of tech empowerment and economic growth.
We welcome the explosion of AI in Nigeria as Nigeria carves a niche for it in this sector. Now that brings to a close this edition of Business Incorporated. Thanks for watching. I am Will Ibang.